I don't even know where to start with this team. Um, Go over some of the worst play calling I've ever seen. Andy Dalton was our leading rusher today, 4 carries for 21 yards. That is amazing. Um, Taysom Hill had 6 carries for 13 yards. Alvin Kamara, 7 carries for 13 yards, throwing his 2 fumbles. Mark Ingram, 4 carries for 10 yards. Um, we haven't been shut out in, I think, 332 games. It was the longest active streak in the NFL. And somehow today we couldn't manage a field goal. I think we had 5 trips inside the red zone, and we managed 0 points. Phenomenal. I can't see a scenario to where Dennis Allen is the head coach next year. And I couldn't be happier to see a guy on his way out. This is the most unimaginative team that I've seen fielded in a decade. I think it's obvious, with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, everybody is expecting greatness. And it's hard to be the coach that follows the coach. But this is abysmal for our offense. And we've made zero preparation when Drew Brees exited with his retirement. We have nobody. The fact that we signed Jameis Winston as our starting quarterback, I think says everything about where this franchise was planning on going with this. This guy threw for, I think, 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions the year before we signed him. And it was a circus when he was at Tampa Bay. And he's consistently been problems from day one. When he was at FSU, when he came to Tampa Bay. If anybody's ever seen an interview with this guy, it is absolutely atrocious. You don't even want him to speak. You hate it. And this is the guy that's the signal caller for your team. And then we benched him and we signed Dalton. Or we signed Dalton and benched him. But even Dalton has shown that he can't make a good decision when it counts and when we need it. And we went through this draft, which is amazing to me. This is what pisses me off the most about them. We go into this draft knowing that Winston's not our quarterback. Nobody expected this guy to be our starting quarterback. And we used one of our first-round picks to trade up and get an offensive tackle, Trevor Penning, who came in, sprained his toe, turf toe, whatever, and was out for – this was his first game back. And instead of going after a quarterback, this is what we do in the draft. And we've allowed this to fester to where we're going to have to basically watch this team implode because we're losing all kind of big names on defense next year. Ooh. Twitter is where it's at right now. It's always winning when the Saints play like shit, which they did, and they deserve every bit of this. We've got the traditional floating dumpster fire going down the river, the GIF that everybody loves. We have the Joker dressed up in our Saints gear. I mean, this has just been a terrible. This has been brewing. It's been one of those things where I think everybody expected this to happen, and the thing that really made you mad about this year, and this was just, it's a damn ready to break, is that we make this huge push for Deshaun Watson, and this was never going to happen. And Mickey Loomis is sitting here selling this, this idea that we're going to get Deshaun Watson over here. And in the midst of 30-something lawsuits for him getting handies at the massage parlor. And this is the guy that we choose to come to New Orleans. I mean, just saying that out loud and letting that sink in, a guy who is literally forcing women and their head down and their hands to rub on him, we're going to bring him to New Orleans. This is a great idea. It's literally just waiting for gasoline to find fire. And even so, knowing that he is going to end up being suspended, we're still going to throw this contract at him and see. I mean, we brought the guy in, and this was a deal that they were trying to push hard, and have him out for 10, 11 weeks. And they didn't know that when it was going to happen, but they knew he was going to be suspended. There's no way he was coming to our team or coming into another team and not going to serve some kind of lengthy suspension. I mean, I want to say it started out at like 5 games, which was a joke. But here we are, 4-8, 12 weeks into the season, and this team has zero direction. The brightest spot on this team is the heart that Taysom Hill shows, and Chris Olave. Alvin Kamara, man, if anybody's seen the video of him in Vegas with his little posse running around and them stomping the hell out of that guy, you're waiting on the suspension for that as well. And it's just, this is the tip of the iceberg for us losing a bunch of people, contracts and suspension. He'll be suspended for, probably 4 or 5 games if he even makes it through the end of the season before that suspension. And then our defense, we have so many issues on defense with our contracts that there's no way we're going to be able to re-sign all these guys. And then the questionable move of getting rid of Gardner to the Eagles. I mean, gave him away to the Eagles. And we're set up for no draft picks next year in the draft. Amazing on how this team has been managed coming into this season. Let's see what our draft is next year. Updated look at Saints draft picks in the 2023. We have a round 2, a round 3, a round 4, a round 5, another round 5, and a round 7. We have 6 draft picks next year. Easily the least in all of the NFL. I just don't understand it. I don't understand how we can be mismanaged this bad. And if anybody has kept up with the contract situation that carried over from year to year with Drew Brees, it's got us to where we are right now. We never were able to negotiate that contract where it actually benefited anybody. We just kept pushing money towards the end of the contract, and we weren't able to bring in any talent. We're bringing back guys like, Malcolm from the Eagles, who went off and had, great years over there. And he's at the end of his career. We brought in Matthew, who was cut from the Chiefs, and he hasn't really been what we were looking for. Reggie Roby just came back tonight. It's really kind of pasting pictures on a collage and just hoping that it looks good. And our defense is solid. Look, I mean, we gave up 13 points on the road tonight, and we played well enough to win that game on defense. And anytime your defense gives up, 13 points to a quarterback who is not great, but Garoppolo is good, with McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, I mean, it should drive you crazy about how anemic our offense looked. And we couldn't kick any field goals. We couldn't score any touchdowns. We get down inside the 5, literally on the 4-yard line, and we don't move the ball 1 yard. And then Kamara gets clobbered. I'm not going to hang all of this on Kamara. I know the first fumble was definitely his fault. And you can say the second fumble was as well. But I will say this: when Andy Dalton is your quarterback and he's leaving you out to dry like he's doing, he got his guys murdered tonight by seeing the defensive backs coming in, and he would just throw a lofting ball out there, and Kamara would get clobbered multiple times tonight. This is just one of the worst offenses I've ever seen. The box score, the stats on this game, really don't even tell the story. Our defense was lights out on the line, and really made it difficult for them to move the ball outside of our fumbles. Jimmy G had one TD, had a decent night, but he was put in situations to succeed, multiple times. Our defense was just, they deserve better, and I'm so frustrated with this team right now. I can't even see straight. Where's the time of possession that we had? Team stats. We had the ball 25 minutes, and they had the ball 34, which isn't that bad. I mean, we're so even across the board, but a lot of this is misleading because of the end of the game with, San Francisco got a lot of, their last drive was just really, our team, the Saints knew that they weren't going anywhere the rest of the game. It was 2 minutes left, and they were just putting together a drive to kill the ball, and I think the defense even knows it. If anybody on that team is any type of person that's going to come out, and they're not, but in their head, they know what's going on here. They're never going to come out and say their quarterback sucks. They're never going to come out and say their coach sucks. Dennis Allen is garbage, and he always has been as a head coach. He is not a game management type guy. He is a defensive coach, and that's where he excels. And Pete Carmichael, for Christ's sakes, this guy, his head was up his ass all night with play calling, and it was not even close. If Olave isn't out there, running around like a madman, then this offense looks even worse. We have no imagination when it comes to our offense. One of the things that is definitely, to me, that I'm seeing on this team that I've never seen, that we've always had as a part of our game, and it makes you wonder just, where is this gone? Our screen game, running screens has always been one of the things that we have been phenomenal at, and we never run screens anymore. And Kamara is definitely one of the more talented backs in the NFL, and it's being wasted with the lack of productivity on our offense. Our third down efficiency wasn't bad, 4th and 11, or 4 for 11, and San Francisco's was 5 for 13. Again, a lot of these things are, a lot of these stats are kind of padded towards the end of the game, but one of the things that drives me crazy is the inefficiency of Dalton. 18 of 30 is pretty poor, and he got a lot of, like I said, if he didn't have Olave and Olave wasn't showing out, this would look even worse. Our passing was just, it was trash, and I don't really see a good end to this unless we get rid of these players on defense that have been our studs and can afford to sign a quarterback. And then you've got to even look at, who's going to be available for those, for the free agents. And most of the quarterbacks I could see, coming to New Orleans and making a push with this team have already been gobbled up. And one of the ones that I was really hoping that would have come to New Orleans was the guy we played tonight, was Jimmy Garoppolo. I couldn't believe that we didn't make a stronger push for that. And if we're going to give up a first round pick for a tackle, let's give up a first round pick to get a quarterback that's actually you know managing and can actually do some things. Um, I mean, I've always liked Jimmy Garoppolo, but another guy is the Russell Wilson sitting over in Denver with the trash team around him. And I guess we can speculate all day long if Russell Wilson would have came over here, if he would have been sitting around a trash team. But our offensive line was pretty formidable, with only you know uh, lacking in one area, which was a left tackle, which we went out and got. But then he got hurt, and we've been just fine. On I say we've been just fine. We've been good enough to win these games, and we've lost some team to some teams that are just, I just don't get it, of how terrible we've looked this year, to teams that are so beatable. And you know but as they say, there's always next year, and we can always screw up in the draft again next year. And I mean, we didn't even take a quarterback late in the draft, which is amazing. But so here we are. We have Andy Dalton leading us the rest of the way with the phenomenal Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael over there. I don't know what he was doing tonight, stuffing marshmallows in his face, but he sure as hell wasn't calling any creative plays near the goal line. So we're sitting at 4-8 tonight. We could have been a half game out of first, but we're not, and we suck, and we suck pretty bad. Our offense it's got to be one of the lower in the leagues, and lower in the league. So it's pretty exciting times right now. Let's see exactly where we stand. Passing offense. Let's go to teams. Team statistics. Passing. We are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're eighth in the league at 237 yards a game, which is a lot of trash yards because we're behind most of the games. So, again, don't let that confuse you. Rushing. We are 117 yards a game, and we're about 18th in the league on that. 4, 8, 12, 16th in the league, 117 yards a game. And tonight I think we rushed for like 60, maybe 60 yards. Let's see. We rushed for 63 yards tonight. We really killed it. So next up, who we get our ass kicked by? Let's take a look at that. The Buccaneers. Fantastic. That line is 6.5. We always play them tight, but I'm going to err on the side that, we're playing in Tampa Bay. They actually have a quarterback who's 80 years old and will probably throw for 300 yards against our defense, and make the game unreachable. I can tell you this much: with the defense and the linebackers that the Tampa Bay Bucs have, they'll destroy Dalton next week. It'll be a blast to watch. We'll be real excited to to see how well he moves against this defense with Devin White and Levante David. It's going to be bad. We couldn't run the ball against San Francisco today. We're not going to be able to run it against the Bucs next week, and it'll be another abysmal performance on offense. And with 6.5, I'd feel safe about taking the Bucs. I'm at the point right now where I just think I should start, kind of branching out and trying to make some money off this team since they're so terrible. And I'd love to see what they were against the spread. I think going into San Francisco tonight, they were 10-point dogs, or maybe 8.5. Let me see. I saw some people bitching about it online because nobody would kick a field goal to help cover the line. Let's see. I think they said the last 3 times the Saints have been shut out have all been by San Francisco. Amazing. The line was 8.5, and we got beat 13-0. Swear, unimaginable. Such a shitty team this year. Not even apologizing for my language tonight. I don't give a shit. This team has just got me so riled up. I have done so well staying away from this because they have been just a complete shit show and dumpster fire for the longest time coming. I mean, even last year it was just, we were kidding ourselves last year. And coming into this year, it was Jameis Winston is always going to happen. His decision-making will always happen. And anytime you see what he does off the field and then, just kind of bring that onto the field, it's like an idiot sandwich. So we're running into Tampa Bay next week, 6.5. I think it's safe to say you can put your money on Tampa Bay and feel really good about that. And try to make yourself some extra cash. I mean, why not? If your team's going to suck, go the distance with them and, see how much money you can make off of them. I can't believe, just to give you an idea of how bad we suck, we actually beat the Rams last week, and the Rams were the Super Bowl champions last year, and they suck really bad this year. If we were to lose against them, it would have been telling. The Saints were 2.5 point favorites on that one, so we would have gotten burned on that one. So the Saints, the week before that, we played the Steelers, and the Steelers were 1 point favorite, and they beat us by 10. The Steelers, by a rookie quarterback in Kenny Pickett, which I wanted out of the draft, who went to the college Pittsburgh, but we were really smart and didn't go after him either. And then, so they're literally not covering any game. They've covered one game so far. So now we're going back the week before that. The Raiders, we beat 24-0. What a fluke. Then the Cardinals beat us 42-34. I can't believe we put up 34 points. And in that game, Arizona was 2.5. So literally you can bet the favorite. The favorite is covering. The Saints are not covering any of the lines on these games. They've covered, I think, 2 lines out of the last 8 weeks. So if you're betting the lines and you take the Saints, or you're going to lose. So take the favorite. And we should be the dog in every game going forward. I don't know how this team could be favored over anybody unless somebody fields a team without a quarterback. And even then, I think we might lose. So yeah, bet the favorite. Bet whoever we play. Tampa Bay next week, take your shot. I mean, this is an opportunity for anybody who's pissed off at the Saints, and everybody obviously is. Bet the favorite. Hell, call me. We'll go in halves. Vicksburg's 40 minutes away. So this is where we start feeling sorry for the talent that we do have. We have Alvin Kamara, who, like I said, is in some trouble with his suspension. You have Taysom Hill, who has all the heart in the world. I wish we had 11 of him on offense. Chris Olave. Jarvis Landry's kind of hit or miss. I mean, he's a good veteran, but, I mean, he had 2 catches tonight. If you're not going to throw the ball to him, what's the point? I actually think Traquan Smith's better than him, and we're not even looking at him. This was kind of a mixed pot of receiving that we had tonight. This is just such a bad example of an offense. This is just one of those things where you just want to watch a team. You want to watch them just blow up their team and start all over again, and see how bad it can get before how good it can get. But one of the things that we're going to run into that I think everybody's just kind of waiting on is they're going to wait to see how much of this financial obligation we have to the defense is going to come into play next year, because it's going to come home to roost next year. If you think it was bad this year, it's going to be really bad next year, because there's no way we're going to get creative financially and have a quarterback that can actually move forward that's worth a damn. So I think what we've covered is fire the head coach. Ask Pete Carmichael what the hell was he doing all game when we got inside the red zone. I mean, Will Lutz missed a field goal. Can't really blame that on Pete Carmichael or the head coach, but Will Lutz has been money, so I'm going to give him a pass on that. Dennis Allen has been a shit coach for a while, and Pete Carmichael, this was a really bad game called by him, and it's not even excusable. It's not even close to being, hey, this is what happened. This was just an absolute terrible example of an offensive coordinator. So yeah, that pretty much covers it. Fire the head coach. Bet on Tampa Bay. 6.5 is the line next week. I think you'll be kind of worried the first quarter or two. The Saints will show some fight, and then I think Tom Brady will happen, and even the coach at Tampa Bay, who has not been proven to be a phenomenal coach. He just has a great staff around him, and Todd Bowles. Byron Leftwich is the offensive coordinator over there. And I think what you're seeing is you're seeing a team use some creativity on that side, and they'll end up going on a run. And they're going to use the Saints as a stepping stone next week. They were in a pretty tough game today against Cleveland. Tampa Bay was. And ended up winning that game. And let's see. Actually, they didn't. They lost that game. That's right. They lost that game. Unbelievable. Because we would have moved into a half game out of first if we would have won. All right. Well, we'll see you next time, the same week. Next week, same time. And